What I want to talk about on today's call is the state of marketing, the power of focus, Facebook advertising, the best 3 sales questions, video marketing, the importance of faces.
This call is being recorded.
So what I want to talk about today for my part of the call, guys, is I want to talk about outside sales pro tips. You know, we have been largely an inside sales company. The whole world is moving towards inside sales, and a lot of what we do is talk on the phone or do webinars or do screen shares with people. But one of our initiatives this summer is to get out there belly to belly more, to do more in-office appearances, to do more event presenting. And there really is a huge difference between inside sales and outside sales. So as you guys go out there and start driving to offices or doing hotel presentations, I wanted to give you some expert tips on outside sales so that we make the most out of those opportunities. Long story short is that when you're used to being in the cubicle, and then you go hop in the car, you need to make some adjustments. One example would be this. For the last year, I have been beating the drum on the fact that 55% of human communication is physiology and body language, and 38% is tone. And that only the words you say, only account for 7% of how people understand you. Well, when you're in the cubicle, when you're in the boiler room, when you're dialing for dollars, you don't have physiology. So the way you look and the way you walk and the way you smell and the way you dress and the way you kind of have that positive energy or not, it's out the window. When you're on the phone, the only 2 things that matter are your tone and your words. But when you go into an office, when you do outside sales, now, all of a sudden, the way you look matters. The way you look at people matters. What you chose to wear matters. How you smell matters. The car you drive and where you park it and how you walk up to the front door matters. So what I would be thinking about, you guys, is as you start to practice outside sales, as you start to sort of work on presenting for groups of people in person, you need to work on your presenting, not work on your pitch. Think of your pitch as the words, and think of your presenting as everything but the words. And you guys have the talk track down. So think about your body language. How are you walking when you're presenting? Where are you standing? Like, are you leaning or are you confident? So really think about your body language. What does your body language say without you saying a thing? You know, I tell people this at my in-person seminars, like, if you want to understand the power of body language versus words, think about the last time your significant other was mad at you. Could you tell even if they didn't say anything? Of course you could. So that energy, that vibe is very real. The other thing that matters when you're face-to-face, and this obviously matters on the phone too, but you have got to be early. Like when you're on a phone call, you're going to do your pre-call stalk and you may spend 5 or 10 minutes before your call prepping. But when you are doing outside sales, you have got to show up a minimum of 30 minutes early. If your appointment is at 1 p.m., you need to consider yourself late if you're not there at 12:30. And I'll tell you why. Here's what you need to do with that time. Number 1, you need to go meet with the person who booked you and tell them thank you and let them know that you're there and let them know that you appreciate them having you there. And you can't do that if you get there 5 minutes early. Number 2, you have to set up and make sure that all your visuals are working. You have to make sure the projector is working. You have to make sure that the internet is working. And those are the worst things that you could be doing with 30 seconds before the meeting starts. You also want to make sure you always have your presentation as a backup, as a PDF, as a Keynote file. I know we do a lot of live interactive demos, but it really sucks when you're all ready to go live in the office that you're at, their internet is down. You can't control that. So you need to have an offline version of all your material ready to go. The other reason you need to be there early is for what I call the meet and greet. You have to be greeting and getting to know every prospect as they arrive, because you're not going to be one-on-one. When you're one-on-one over the phone, it's very easy to qualify, but it's a lot harder to qualify when there's 11 people or 19 people. You can't just go one at a time during your presentation to figure out who they are. But for the 15 or 20 minutes while people are getting there for the meeting, introduce yourself, welcome them to the meeting, thank them for coming, ask them a couple questions about their business. Hey, why'd you get into real estate? Hey, how many homes did you sell last year? Hey, how many Facebook ads have you ran in the last month? So get there early, meet the person who booked you and thank them, set up and make sure your tech is working, have a backup in case the internet goes down, and then greet each and every person as they enter the room. You need to have your computer, your laptop, your screen. You need to have everything completely ready by 20 till. And that whole last 20 minutes needs to be this meet and greet. You shouldn't be making sure the internet works with 2 minutes left. Another pro tip. I went to train a guy in Alabama one time, and he had been selling software for more than 4 years when I went to coach him. And I went to his first office appointment, and I watched as he set up his computer, he set up his projector, he had everything ready to go. It looked great. And then he actually stood at the back of the room and faced the screen just like the people there did. So as opposed to him being up front and facing the actual prospects, he stood at the back of the room and they were all looking at the screen. Now, that might sound like a stupid error, and it was, but remember, this guy had been in the field for 4 years. Guys, if you are doing outside sales, you have to face your audience. You're the lion and they're the lamb. If you want to control the talk, you have to look at them. Now, you could be a funny lion. You can be a nice lion, but you have to be the lion. And a lion is not afraid of eye contact. A lion is not intimidated if 5 or 6 lambs are looking at him while he speaks. So be the lion, not the lamb. The other tip is pace. What I found is that when you're nervous and you're in person and everybody's staring at you, people tend to have a kind of what you would call kind of like a defense mechanism where they go faster. My note here for you guys is that your pace is almost always too fast when you're nervous. And the way that I try to think about this for myself, because I do speeches in person all the time. You know, I got a 15-minute talk here, a 3-hour talk here, a 30-minute talk here. I think about it like a car, you guys. If you start the talk in 5th gear, what are you building towards? You have to start the talk in 1st gear, and then go to 2nd gear, and then get to 3rd gear, and then get to 5th gear, and then come back down to 3rd gear. Like this should be a story. And if you come out of the gates and all you do is have this crazy pace and you've got this crazy energy, it's actually very difficult to maintain that for 60 straight minutes. Think of it like a song, you guys. You need to have a verse and a chorus. The chorus is when you're in 5th gear. The chorus is when you're at level 10. But if you don't have a verse that slowly leads up to the chorus, no one will remember it anyway because they won't get to it. So think about your pace. You could never start and stay in 5th gear, and even if you do, it wouldn't be impactful. If you're at level 11 the whole time, that's the only level you got. But if you go from level 6 to level 11 and back to level 7, that's actually called storytelling. That's actually called performing. The other thing that I do that's a pro tip for sure, and this is whether I'm in person with a small group, lunch and learn, all the way up to 5,000 people in the audience. You have got to get the audience to do 2 things in the first 1 minute if you're doing outside sales. Number 1, you've got to get them to laugh. You have got to get the people in the room to laugh within the first minute. The second thing you've got to do is get them to raise their hand. So you got to get them to laugh and you got to get them to raise their hand. And as you guys know, like you guys see, I use humor a lot. Well, what I don't do is I don't actually tell a new joke at the beginning of an outside sales pitch. I have to tell a joke that works every time. I have to tell a joke that I know gets a laugh. Because if it doesn't get the laugh, it's really embarrassing. But when it does get the laugh, when it does break that ice, it's huge for me. So like one example is like, I always start off and say, hey, does anybody here have more usernames and passwords than listings? Like that gets a laugh every single time. Hey, I'm from a place called Polk County. Polk County is actually an acronym. It stands for People of Little Knowledge. That gets a laugh every time. So you've got to come up with that kind of quick joke at the beginning that gets that laugh. And then I always try to get people to raise their hand. I don't get them to raise their hand the whole time. That can become annoying. But what you can do is like get the laugh, get your joke out of the way, and then say, hey, by the way, really quick, just a quick show of hands. Raise your hand if you actually looked at Facebook today before you looked at someone's face. So now I've got kind of another joke, but I've got their hand up. So you have got to be crazy about getting a laugh and getting their hand up in the first minute. We can work one-to-one on what that is. Hopefully give you guys a couple of ideas here, but what you're looking for is your tried and true techniques. You're not going to practice a new joke the first time you do this. You're going to use one that you know works. The other thing that I find is like, I like making a presentation interactive. Hey, if you've never seen the screen I'm on right now, be honest, raise your hand. I want everyone else to see. So there's a way to ask for the hand raise, but then if you do it too much, it gets to be annoying. Hey, by the way, raise your hand. Oh, by the way, say I, say I, say I. Raise your hand. That shit's annoying. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's Tony Robbins doing it or you guys. Eventually, there's too many of those requests. So what I like to do instead, I learned this trick from a guy named Jeff Turner years ago, is instead of every single time saying, hey, raise your hand if X, you use a version of that where you would say, hey, I bet if I asked you guys to raise your hand because you've had a lead that you never called, I bet every hand would go up. So that's another way to sort of like bring that concept into the talk without actually being annoying as shit and making them raise their hand every 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Because you'll see it happen. Like the first time you ask them, they all go up. The second time, they all go up. By the 8th time, they're kind of getting bored of that stuff. The other best practice here, guys, is you never in outside sales, just like in inside sales, you never give out the order form until the end. You never give out the price until the end. Like what you'll find sometimes when you're doing an outside sales pitch and it's going really good, a lot of times people will stop you and be like, hey, Chris, how much is this? Hey, Chris, what's the cost? That's a good question. That means they like it. That means they're bought in. But I know that I have to give my whole talk if I'm going to build more value than the price, and I'm going to get paperwork signed that day. So when you get those types of questions about price, how much is this? You really just want to deflect. Use an ARP. Oh, how much is it? That's a great question. I'm guessing that you're asking because you're interested. I'm going to go through all the pricing at the end, but it's something you can afford. Like that would be how I would handle when they ask for the price during the middle of it. So make it simple. This is another key here, you guys. When you go from your pitch to your close, this is we call this a transitioning closing statement in the conversion code, but it's actually very awkward. It can be very awkward to go from your pitch to handing out the forms. And you have to be very purposeful when you do that, or it will be painful. As an example, if you get to the end of your pitch and you say, okay, great. Well, I appreciate you guys' time today. If you're interested in signing up, raise your hand and I'll bring you a form. Man, if you ask that and no one's hand goes up, you just wasted 2 hours of your time. So it's actually a little bit better to just say, hey, now that you guys understand how everything works, I'm going to go around and I'm going to hand each of you a form, and then I'm going to sit down with you one-on-one to go deeper and go through all the details. Then they all get a form and you get a one-on-one with all of them. What I found is that when you're doing outside sales and there's several people that are interested in buying, they all get kind of secretive. They don't all want to talk at the same time. So I would lean into that and say, hey, I'm going to hand out the order forms, and then I'm going to come sit down with you guys one at a time to figure out if this is right for you. But thanks for your time today. So now you've got 5 or 6 sit-down one-on-one chances to close versus, hey, raise your hand if you're in, and no hands go up. The other thing that's critical is let me take one step back. The other thing that I try to do, this is another best practice, is I want them filling out the form no matter what. So even if they're not going to buy or they're thinking about buying, like I want them to start writing on the form. That actually shows me who's engaged. So I would say something like, hey, I'm going to start passing out the forms, and whether you're signing up today or not, do me a favor. In the promo line, I want you to write Keller Williams Boca Raton. Because if you do sign up, you're actually going to get half off your first month because you came today. So write that in the promo line. Even if you're not signing up, I don't want to forget to put that in there for you guys. So now you've got everybody a form. You've got everybody writing on the form. And now you sit down with them to close the deal. Last couple of tips with outside sales. You have got to come up with a reason they should buy today. Now, as a company, we give you a reason. Hey, if you sign up today, we'll give you half off your first month. But what will you do? Not the company. What will you, as the rep, do if they sign up today? One of the tricks that I used to use at Top Producer was, hey, if you sign up right now, I will actually come back within the next 30 days and I will sit down and I will train you and your team in person. My company didn't require that I do that. But I knew that, one, it made people feel more comfortable signing up the same day they met me. And two, it made them not regret the purchase because they actually would launch it the right way because they'd get my one-on-one help. So we're going to give you a same-day special. But what is your same-day special? I used to do a 1-hour one-on-one webinar for anyone that signed up the day I met them, even if I couldn't make it back to the office. Because I wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what they bought and that they got the most out of it. And I can promise you that hour webinar or that return in-person visit was actually a lot more impactful for my ability to close than any kind of financial discount was. The other pro tip is going to be you need to book your next appointment with that office before you leave. If the appointment went well, if there was a good turnout and you know you want to go back, let's say you went in, you sold a license, but you've got one more license to sell. You need to book your next appointment before you leave that one. So you need to always have a reason to come back. Hey, today I came in and I taught you guys a class on Facebook and on landing pages. When I come back next month, I'm going to teach you guys inside sales and phone scripts. So you don't want to come back for the same reason. We used to do this and it would be like a series. Hey, I'm going to come in and teach Facebook. And then if you guys like it, I'll come back and teach sales. And then basically, they're going to like your talk. Okay, great. Do you guys want me to come back? Perfect. I'll go talk to your boss. So book your next appointment before you leave this one. The last two things, one is going to be if you're already going to a physical location, you need to use Angie's List or Yelp or Google searches to identify 5 to 10 additional prospects in that area. There's actually a really cool app called Route for Me. Route for Me. And what that allows you to do is you could put in 12 addresses and it will give you the optimal driving path to get to all 12 the fastest. So when you go into your outside sales appointment at 123 Main Street, when it ends, you need to spend the next hour or two going to the businesses around that business that you think we can be a prospect for. And when you go in, you need nice collateral. Bring your iPad Pro in with you. Bring your nice business cards. And don't go in and say, can I teach you about Curaytor? Hey, I work for Curaytor. We identified you as someone that we think we can help. Go in there with an elevator pitch like, hey, we actually run Facebook ads for businesses, and I have a bunch of them that were very inexpensive that got 100 leads. Can I show you how we can help you get 100 leads using Facebook today? Like, that's more interesting to me than like, can I tell you about Curaytor? Can I show you 3 emails that will get you more customers? Can I show you 2 Facebook ads that will get you more leads than you got in the last year? And then, of course, if you're going to stop by and you're going to go to a gym or you're going to go to a doctor's office or you're going to go to a mortgage company or a car dealer, I would think about what's called the pre-stop stalk. Normally, we do a pre-call stalk, but you're going to win or lose these pop buys based on having intel. So just like on a phone call, you'd be like, yeah, I spent a little bit of time researching you. Looks like you guys sold this many homes, and looks like you've been updating your Facebook page with this kind of content. Looks like you actually have this many reviews on Zillow. Good job. Well, the pre-stop stalk is no different. You would want to go in and say, hey, I researched your company online. You guys are crushing it on Yelp. You've got an amazing Instagram feed. I think we could help you guys take it to the next level. So the pre-stop stalk is the new pre-call stalk if you're thinking about outside sales. So that's it, you guys. Outside sales pro tips. There is as much science to outside sales, if not more, than there is to inside sales. And I hope you guys enjoyed this call. Hey, this is Chris. Thanks for listening to my call. If you enjoyed the call, please subscribe right now. Also, share the episode and use the hashtag #CallsWithChris. Every week, I choose a few people randomly to win a free signed copy of the conversion code, my USA Today best-selling book. You can also visit Curaytor.com. That's Curaytor.com to learn more about my company, which is the one I'm running during these calls. We help small businesses grow faster, and we've been featured recently by Inc., Forbes, Fortune, and Entrepreneur Magazine.